Welcome to our show, Trip Sports After Dark, our prep football recap. Massive win for Lewiston over Bothell of Seattle. That'll be our main focus. But before jumping into that one, we'll just go through the scores from this week. So we got Lewiston 33-28 over Bothell, Rogers over Clarkston 46-0, Moscow over St. Mary's 37-14, Deer Park over Pullman in overtime 20-14, Colfax beating Asotin 42-7, Kendrick with a huge showing here, 102-0 over Clearwater Valley. Kamiah over Prairie, that was a big one, 22-12. And with that, we will jump into talking about some Bengal football, getting the second win of the Zane Hobart era, a massive upset over a Seattle area team. The Bengals go in ahead at halftime, actually, 15-14, a 40-yard field goal. Cody, why don't you start us off talking a little bit about this game?
Right, so I talked with Zane Hobart, the famed coach who has taken over with the Bengals this year. And Hobart was saying that he felt they had an excellent week in practice, that even though the Bengals had a little bit of a rough start to this season, he believed they were primed for a big showing in this one. And, his faith was vindicated. This was it was a breakout showing, maybe more than anyone, for Dallas Richardson, the sophomore quarterback, who I am curious of any possible connection between him and Colton Richardson, the legendary Bengal quarterback from last decade. So if anyone knows, then feel free to tell us. Anyway, Dallas Richardson coming out with, 290 yards of total offense in this game. And it was only his second start. So this guy, definitely some excitement for the Bengals, maybe turning a corner in their season after they, as we know, had a little bit of a rough go of it, dropping their first three games. Wiping out Clarkston 46-0 last week maybe was a confidence boost. And now this one, Bothell being a top 10 ranked team for Washington Class 4A, which is the big school classification in Washington, and a team that beat Lewiston 38-10 almost a year ago to the day. That's a striking reversal, and it came in dramatic fashion. Their fans mobbed the field after a late interception by Gage Steiner kind of sealed the deal, and the Bengals ran out the clock. And so this was, a big night for the Lewiston community.
He was already a backup quarterback for this team, coming in because of injuries, I believe, to Mason Way.
Yeah.
And Lewiston has played a few quarterbacks this season, but Richardson coming in as a backup. He gets hurt early in this game. It has to leave the game, and then they tape him up and send him back out there, and just a huge showing for him.
The 15 unanswered, or was it 15 unanswered?
No, it was 18.
18 unanswered
in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter, that stands out the most. I mean, battling with Bothell, who is a big school from Seattle, the Seattle area. I think that just 18 unanswered is pretty much like the story of the game. That's the real reason they won, and that's the reason why they came up on top against Bothell, again, a big school.
Yeah, Bothell contended for the Washington 4A state title as recently as 2023, and so obviously beat Lewiston pretty big last year in Bothell. And so for this Lewiston team, many of those guys, played in that game at Bothell last year, so it's a little bit of a revenge factor. Gage Steiner in particular with the game-sealing interception. And it's just a really exciting day for Lewiston's young core, quarterback Dallas Richardson and wide receiver DJ Wilkerson, who was all over the field with multiple touchdowns.
Just to go through some of his touchdowns, it started him off with a 33-yard receiving touchdown. He also had a 78-yard receiving touchdown from Richardson, and then he gets an 18-yarder as the final touchdown for
That's
the Bengals.
true, the go-ahead score. And Wilkerson, I believe, is also a sophomore, by the way.
He is, yeah.
Sam, you covered Lewiston many times this season. I think 2 times so far. Why do you think they bounced back so well in this game?
Well, I think it's just they're all kind of growing together as a team. This is just DJ Wilkerson's third varsity game and second start in as many weeks. Of course, they rolled over Clarkston 46-0 last week, and so I think you've got playmakers who are just, getting the chance to have the ball in their hands and playing really, really well. Lewiston just has one home game remaining. They'll host Sandpoint for senior night in October. This team seems to be young, but have the necessary maturity to go out and win those games on the road.
And it's, yeah, I mean, just a team that's growing a lot already with, it was looking like it could have been a long season, and now Lewiston's won 2 in a row, and with a young team showing a lot of growth already, and what a win to beat a big team from the Seattle area that they lost to last year. With that, let's stick with a Big Four area team and maybe go back to you, Cody, talking about another win for Moscow.
Right. So the Bears, maybe another team that had a rough start to the season and turned a corner a little more rapidly than Lewiston. Moscow being shocked by the smaller division foe Grangeville in its season opener, might have dampened the hopes of people who were looking for more Bears success after their big season last year. So certainly heartening for the Bear fans. Moscow now with 4 consecutive wins. Ryle Cheney, as it turns
We do know how
out,
to say his name now, yes.
the name controversy has been resolved. Ryle Cheney continues to excel for the Bears. Got out there and had a receiving touchdown from Wyatt Cross. A dominant performance, what you would probably expect from the Bears against a smaller division foe. But again, they weren't quite delivering that at the start of the season. It seems like they have righted the ship. They've turned a corner. They beat Pullman in another rivalry game last week. Same night, Lewiston beat Clarkston. And that's the Moscow's second year in a row beating Pullman. The Bears seem like they may be on course to be a threat in their league season that's coming up soon. I think they're playing Lakeland next week, which is now a non-league in the realignment, and then they'll enter the league season week after that.
And we'll bounce over to another Big Four area team, Pullman, with a tough loss today, losing to Deer Park in overtime, 20-14. Pullman still looking for its first win of the season. They dropped to 0-3. Definitely their best game of the season, though, so far in this one.
Certainly, yeah. You saw the Hounds, take a rough loss to Moscow. Similarly, close contest that the Bears just kind of had the upper hand for. And so, they're still searching for that first win, right? But now that they're, entering league play, it's going to be tough. Obviously, Clarkston, they will face Clarkston later this year, who just lost 46-0 to Rogers. And so Rogers will certainly be a tough test for Pullman.
Yeah, maybe bouncing back to you, Trevor, for our next game. Let's go to Kendrick's 102-0 win over Clearwater Valley. Kendrick just keeps rolling. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen 102-0. I don't know if you guys have.
Yeah.
But Kendrick, more than that. But Kendrick stays dominant. Tycap said this is the most points they've had this season, obviously. But it was kind of just a bloodbath. Kendrick quarterback Max Kirkland was 4 for 5 with 4 touchdowns. So every completion he had was a touchdown. Running back Tanner Clemenhagen rushed 3 times for 97 yards and 2 scores. Guys like Clemenhagen, Nathan Twite, and Kate Siflo, they each had 1 interception return for a touchdown. So Kendrick just stays dominant. I don't see anybody stopping them anytime soon. Or even putting up a contest. I don't see that really happening with Kendrick. I could see them going all the way clearly with a win like this.
Yeah, I mean, and as used to we are for Kendrick just being so dominant, and we have seen a couple hundred scores over the years. This is still pretty rare to see 102-0. Kendrick is as good as ever apparently with their new coach. And Cody, you have something to add?
Yeah, a couple of years back, Kendrick did in fact beat Genesee 108-0. I still remember that. In fact, it's funny, we had 102-0 and a 72-0 tonight, or 74-0. Some of these gargantuan wipeouts, but there had a couple years ago, it was the 102-0, and that same night there were some other scores that were not too far back. I mean, and it was making our roundup section just massive with these box scores. And, the sheer laborious effort it was putting onto the lowly sports part-timer was, it was wearisome. And so, this may be a slight plea to Kendrick coach Ty Kep, who is obviously doing a wonderful job helming the Tiger program. Nevertheless, you could rein them in a little bit. 102 points is just, that think of our page space, think of our time. Think of our deadline.
80 points in the first half is insane.
This is true. I mean, he did rein them in. This is fair. He called off the dogs. They could have scored even more than 102 if they really wanted to.
I will say Clearwater Valley, I mean, they might still be winless this season, but they're not a bad team. They've played a lot of tough games this year and tough teams, and so this is not just some total scrub that Kendrick was beaten by this score.
Yeah, the Tigers also destroyed last year's state runner-up, brutalized them. They brutalized everyone they've played. Even other state semifinalists and
other historically, amazing teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I cited a statistic a week or two ago about how they had outscored their opponents, so far 266-6 or something like that. What is it now? It's got they must be something like 400-6. There's been one touchdown scored on Kendrick this season. I believe through today. I'm going to double check that. But
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, Kendrick won a game 96-0, and so
Yes.
you think that maybe they just wanted to break 100, they were desperate to do that, and they got a chance to do it.
as long as it's just once a season, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I mean, that might not be the only time this season.
Yes,
with
I mean,
how
if they
they're
really
playing.
want to, they could probably do that on a regular basis.
But how about a much closer game sticking in the White Pine League? Kamiah over Prairie, 22-12. Two other great teams in the White Pine League. Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, both the Cubs and the Pirates find themselves ranked. They were certainly on my ballot this week among the 2A statewide schools in the state of Idaho. But it was Kamiah that got the edge on Prairie, 22-12. Kamiah also scored 22 points against Logos to take down the former number 2 team earlier this season. And so it was kind of just the usual suspects for the Cubs again. Logan Keene rushing for 80 yards and a touchdown. The Cubs quarterback, Lawson Landmark, once again coming through for the Cubs with a standout performance. The White Pine League is quite the battle, and Kamiah Kendrick will be certainly something to circle. That'll be pretty interesting.
At this point, of course, Kamiah having beaten Logos, which is the defending league champion, which Logos even scored a win over Kendrick last year, the only loss Kendrick has had in several years. Logos, by the way, got its own little win over, beat another private Christian school, Core to Christ, in non-league play today. But so Kamiah looking like they're the top challenger to Kendrick at this point.
Kamiah definitely just a dark horse a little bit. I don't think anybody expected them to be maybe the number 2 in the league, even though they are good every year. But they lost a lot of good players. They lost their coach. And they're showing up, and it's going to be exciting into the season in that league. I believe they play Kendrick in October 10th, I believe, is when they play. So it's coming up a couple weeks for that showdown. And that'll be one to watch as well. Why don't you guys come up with your players of the week? Before we do that, though, we'll get to one more game.
Colfax beat Asotin 42-7. It was, Asotin got the early edge 7-0 after the first quarter. Cody L scrambling for a really solid 20-yard touchdown, avoiding a Colfax tackle. But after that, Colfax's chief strategy of bending but not breaking and really limiting L's passing attack so that he had to revert to running for nearly 90 yards. It seemed to work because the Asotin didn't score after that first score of theirs, and Colfax was able to rattle off 42 points. The Colfax quarterback, Riker Reed, just threw 9 passes, but he completed each one of them. His highlight passes included a 74-yard completion and a 50-yard completion that were really just slant plays to Andre Anton, who just kind of caught these quick slants and then raced down the field, tiptoeing down the sideline. So those were pretty solid.
And with that, why don't you guys consider your players of the week from these games?
Dallas Richardson.
All right, Cody already has his.
Dallas Richardson, who again, what do you guys feel is the percentage likelihood that there is some connection between Dallas Richardson and former quarterback Colton Richardson?
45%.
45?
It's a pretty common name, 80%.
80% you feel, okay. I don't know if Steph wants to invade, but
You guys, yeah, I don't know.
okay. But, nevertheless, I feel it is an understatement to proclaim him, based on this performance, the second coming of Colton Richardson. His passing performance, 16 of 24, his 270 yards of offense in the game, pulling off an upset over a major opponent. As a sophomore making his second start, what better, player of the week could you ask for?
And I'll jump into mine. Really, I want to choose the entire Kendrick defense with Tanner Clement-Hagan, Nathan Twite, Cade Siflo, all getting interception returns. But if I'm going to choose one, I would choose probably Tanner Clement-Hagan, who rushed for 97 yards with 2 scores, and then caught that interception return. The whole Kendrick defense really dominated this performance against Clearwater Valley, but Tanner Clemenhagen was productive in offense as well. So he's my guy this week. He's my player of the week.
How about you, Sam?
I'll have to go with Isaac Nelson. So of the Colfax Bulldogs, this generation of Colfax players, over the last 3 seasons, including in this season, had never beaten Asotin until this year, and so it really meant a lot. Isaac Nelson said for him to get it done and for his team to get it done. He said the boys know what we're doing, and so that could take the Bulldogs far. He scored a pair of touchdowns, caught a 28-yard dot from Riker Reed, and then also burrowed his way through the Panthers for a 7-yard score. So my player of the week is Isaac Nelson.
Alrighty, I think I'm going to stick with going back to Lewiston. I'll go. Man, it's tough to pick a couple players from this game with how big of a game it was. I think I'll go back with DJ Wilkerson, who we've mentioned so far this season. But him scoring multiple touchdowns for this team, being a big part of their, nearly. I mean, how many yards did they have?
440.
Yeah, a big part of their 400 yards, 79 alone on one of his touchdowns. Definitely a big scorer and a big player for the Bengals.
And the go-ahead touchdown.
Go-ahead touchdown as well.
All right, welcome to the college football edition of the Final Whistle. We're fresh off a weekend in which the Idaho Vandals lost to San Jose State 31-28, and the Washington State Cougars lost the 117th Apple Cup to the University of Washington Huskies by a score of 59-24. So let's dive into the Vandals first. The Vandals obviously went on their first true road trip of the season to face the Spartans. What happened down there in San Jose?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, excellent performance from the offense. I thought they looked really good. Joshua Wood looked better than the week before. He had 232 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. The Vandals really should have won that game, to be completely honest with you. The reason they lost was due to a kicker who, Dennis Lynch, San Jose State's kicker, he hadn't made a kick all season. He was 0 for 4 all season so far. Comes in, nails a 47-yarder, ends the game, and that's how San Jose State won 30-28. But really, it was a back-and-forth game. They were trading touchdowns. Idaho jumped to a 14-0 lead and really had the lead until late into the second quarter. Then Jabari Bates, a San Jose State running back, broke free. He went right through the B gap and broke a tackle from Tim Jackson, and then just was untouched from the 50-yard line on and scored. And then a few explosive plays from a guy named Danny Scudero. He's San Jose State's new Nick Nash. Nick Nash was their big wide receiver from last year.
I remember him from Pullman. He was ripping up the Cougs.
Yes, he was. But yeah, so Scudero had 2 plays of over 40 yards, one 40-yard catch, one 56-yard catch. And Ford said the issue was, well, he didn't quite say this, but he kind of what he was implying was the issue was the defense in this game. He said that they couldn't tackle. That was the biggest issue. They just didn't tackle. He said that Scudero had an excellent game. He called him the difference maker in the ball game, which is why San Jose State won. And just explosive plays killed him, and the defense didn't look very good. What else?
Wow, yeah. So we're looking at this, you said this is the game the Vandals should have won. Now they've lost to both FBS opponents by a combined 6 points.
Yes.
They're about to face Montana. They're about to go to Missoula next week. What kind of lessons, but whether it be positive or negative takeaways, can they have from these 2 FBS games and from the season so far, where they're 2-2?
I think that one thing that Ford said a week ago about the offense, or actually about both offense and defense, is that they can win games in different ways. They proved that. So they proved the offense can go off and we can win games here. The defense can go off against Wazoo. I mean, they only allowed 13 points there. Or against St. Thomas, they didn't allow a single touchdown, only 6 points. So the defense can take control. The offense can take control. They can win games in different ways. The thing with Montana is the number 5 team in the FCS.
Yeah.
They're a top team. They're undefeated so far, 3-0. They're going to be a very hard competition for Idaho. I see perhaps a loss coming for Idaho. And it'll definitely be just a really hard game, a really hard fought game from both sides.
Yeah, and in this in San Jose, we saw Joshua Wood show a little more of a stronger passing attack. Right, he was you had wrote in the previous game for the Utah Tech game that Wood only passed for 119 yards in that game, and it was you need to see something more, especially because he only passed for 33 yards against Wazoo, and St. Thomas was decent as well, but for him. But what did you see from Joshua Wood with the passing attack? Does he have, now obviously we know we can run, he's a mobile quarterback, but does he have the arm to take the Vandals far in big sky play?
Yeah, so I think part of the issue against Utah Tech, where they did win the game, but obviously they ran for 286 yards.
Yeah.
They weren't doing the intermediate and short passes, something that Ford calls layups, that Matt Linehan calls layups. They weren't doing those as often. Against San Diego State, they were doing those layups. Those layups and those intermediate passes it's a Linehan offense staple. Scott Linehan does that too. Well, he did that, and Matt Linehan needs to keep doing that from now on. That's how the offense gets unlocked, is those short intermediate passes. And yes, you take some deep shots, but really those middle of the field passes are what really makes this offense. And Joshua Wood can perform those to an excellent level. The run game's always going to be there. It's not an issue. They got 3 great running backs in Elisha Cummings, who, by the way, is injured right now. And they got Art Williams and Nate Thomas. And then Joshua Wood can just run and run and run. He unlocks the offense with his legs as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely he can throw the ball with those short and intermediate passes, take some deep shots every now and then, but that's how you unlock the offense, and that's how you keep Joshua Wood good from both running and passing.
And now to kind of look at the Cougs, first the Apple Cup was in September. It's still weird. You saw Jed Fish in his second year as the University of Washington head coach, who as of entering the game had yet to have won a true road game, go in and get his first true road win. The Huskies were just better in both on paper, and then it translated to the field. Yeah.
I mean, to be completely honest with you, it was a nuclear meltdown, losing 59. Is that 2 straight weeks they lost by 59?
That's 2 straight weeks of allowing 59 points. That's correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, tell me what's wrong with WSU right now.
I think it stems from 2 straight weeks of just being outclassed and outplayed. It does stem from turnovers as well. Obviously, they had 5 turnovers in that North Texas game. Jackson Potter threw 3 interceptions, and that's a big reason why he's no longer the Cougars' starting quarterback. I kind of buried the lead. The Cougars made a change at quarterback for this game. They finally brought in Zevi Eckhouse, the senior, who started the Holiday Bowl for them last year.
Who the fans wanted.
And the fans wanted. The student section were literally chanting, "We want Zevi part of the San Diego State game." In this game against a really stout UW defensive line who generated a total of 25 pressures on the QB.
By the way, that's
Zevi was decent.
An insane number of pressures.
It is an insane number.
Insane.
And 11 of them were from one player, Zach Durfee, who's certainly NFL bound, and Rogers was familiar with since he's from the Dakotas as well. Played for the Dakotas. So despite having pressure in his face all the time, Zevi is mobile, so he was able to roll out to his right, roll out to his left, find his receivers. Actually, his first touchdown pass was to tight end Bo Baker. And they loaded kind of the line of scrimmage of what Wazoo did, like they were, going to run the ball. UW kind of attacked, and they were Zach Durfee and others were right in Zevi's face, but it was intentional because one of the blockers that they thought would be a blocker, Bo Baker, was wide open, and they were able to get that to Zevi. Zevi was able to get that to him for the 14-yard score, and then Devin Ellison was back, and that was huge. Zevi made a couple great throws during this game that really proved that maybe he's getting better. He's much better than he was. I mean, he was great in that Holiday Bowl, but he's improved since then, and that's what you want from a quarterback in his last year of college football. It's just to get better and better.
So first off, I will say Rogers did confirm that Eckhouse is the guy going forward.
That's correct, yeah.
But also, you're kind of bearing the lead a little bit here, too. You're being a little positive.
Tell
me. So one thing that I was doing, I was writing the recap of the Idaho game during this contest, and I look away for 20 minutes, and then I come back, and then all of a sudden they're down 3 or 4 scores. What went wrong with the defense? Why? Obviously they were outclassed, as you said. Why are they outclassed? What's going on there?
Not only were they just faster and not even in a position to be tackled, the Huskies were, but when the Cougars were able to track them down, they often were not able to bring them to the ground, and so you just got all these kind of yards after contact, and a lot of that, especially in the fourth quarter, where Wazoo. I was positive at first because Wazoo, after 3 quarters, they were just down by 7. And then the Washington rattled off 28 straight points. Zevi fumbled as well. And so there was some, 3 turnovers that were on Zevi a little bit. The defense has just got to figure out and do their part as well. Now that you've got some consistency at QB with Zevi, the hope is that offense can continue to grow and continue to flourish. They still got to get the run game going. Angel Johnson, Kirby Voorhees, others were just kind of stuffed right at the line of scrimmage again and again. And there's some growth expected from the running backs. There's some growth expected from the O-line. And the hope is that with Zevi, kind of that senior leadership can elevate everybody. But this defense, the key is, it kind of boils down to the defense. Rodgers hung his hat on. He was obviously South Dakota State's defensive coordinator. His defense has been his thing for years, and he's a defensive head coach. And so the Cougars can't really afford to have 2 straight defensive-minded head coaches who, concede 400 yards a game and, give up 59 points. Cougar fans, I think, maybe expect just 6 wins. It's a successful year if you get 6 wins, you get to a bowl game. Below that is obviously depressing, but it could be below that.
I think it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be tough to get to 6 wins.
Yeah.
But let's close this out. Again, thank you for listening to The Final Whistle. I'm Trevor Junt. That's Sam Taylor. Read more at lmtribune.com/sports. And thank you for listening.